do you think reality is best understood? Through science or philosophy? Today I will be arguing that reality is best understood through science, not philosophy. Reality is the term that needs to be defined here, and it's defined by human ideas. The first piece of supporting data comes from a short YouTube video of Susan Blackmore. Susan Blackmore, a British parapsychologist, explains her theory of memes and how human ideas are best understood through science. She defines memes as elements of a culture or a system of behaviors that are imitated or copied from one person to another. If reality is defined by human ideas and memes are created by humans and passed on by imitating one another, then reality is best understood through science, not philosophy. A few examples of memes are one's vocabulary, skills, fashion, etc. Memes are spread around whether or not they are useful, neutral, or harmful to the human race. The second piece of supporting data comes from Susan Blackmore's book called The Meme Machine. In her book, she explains how a replicator must stand the evolutionary algorithm based on variation, selection, and retention. An example of variation is when people tell stories they have heard, they rarely tell them the exact same way they heard them. An example of selection is when certain memes grab the attention of people and are remembered while some fail to get passed on. Retention is when something from the original meme is retained, so we are able to call it imitation or copying something. If reality is defined by human ideas and new memes come from variation and combination of old ones, whether that is from one's mind or being passed on from person to person, then reality is best understood through science, not philosophy. Memes have become the way humans think. The last piece of supporting data comes from a different YouTube video of Susan Blackmore. In this video, she tells how mimetic evolution is a process of the competition between memes to get imitated and stay in our culture and our brains. She explains how our culture happens to be all of the things we have copied from each other in our lifetime. If reality is defined by human ideas and mimetic evolution makes up every aspect of our culture, from physical to mental to belief systems to political systems, then reality is best understood through science, not philosophy. Our cultures are an ever-changing process. Memes first started with our early ancestors around 2 to 2.5 million years ago. Imitation requires a bigger brain, and that's why humans are the best animals at imitation. There are a few animals that can imitate certain things, but humans are the only animal that can imitate all kinds of things. The first argument my opponent might make is that according to newworldencyclopedia.org, humans are born with specific ideas formed in our brains, but during birth the ideas are hidden away in the brain so the child is not aware of them just yet. This cannot be true because mimetic evolution explains that human ideas are spread from person to person. So it can't be possible that humans are born with ideas stored in their brains. My opponent might ask where this knowledge could come from because you can't learn it from looking at the world around you. That is not true because memes are knowledge that is spread from person to person, so you do in fact learn these ideas and concepts from looking out in the world and copying what people do. Susan Blackmore's book, The Meme Machine, says we get our vocabulary and language through memes. The next thing my opponent might say is that according to plato.stanford.edu, humans are born with certain universal concepts, which shows there is a common human nature. This is wrong because we get our culture from memes, such as language and fashion. My opponent might say if a person does not think, then it does not have a brain. According to Susan Blackmore, the way we think now comes from the memes itself because we use the information we copied to do something useful or harmful to us. Humans have a big enough brain to imitate or learn these ideas from each other. The last thing my opponent might say is that human ideas are not best understood through science, but through philosophy, because philosophers believe that people are born with certain ideas and don't have to learn to have knowledge. That's wrong, because science proves that human ideas are imitated and spread from person to person. According to an article written by Ismael Perez, memes depend on humans for reproduction through imitation. Mimetic evolution is inevitable because we will continue to copy and imitate each other as time passes on and we go from generation to generation. Stories will be told differently, fashion will change, and words from our vocabulary will be tossed out because no one uses them anymore. Memes will continue to spread around no matter if they are helpful or harmful to us. How do you define reality? Thank you.